welcome to another video. I've got Eric here from Etacude, and it's been a pleasure because he's made the effort to come up to Daejeon, all the way from Daegu. So
Like a
thank you so
2-hour
much.
trip.
Yeah, but yeah, really appreciate it. It's first time we're meeting face to face, although we've kind of been interacting online quite a lot, haven't we?
How long have we known each other now?
I think
5?
2020. I
Yeah,
think.
5 years at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Particularly with some of the videos that you shared, and they were quite popular. But I thought we would do a video here today, maybe sharing our experiences of getting into YouTube, experiences of teaching, and and anything else that comes to mind, I suppose. Well, let's get started then with maybe our decision, why we entered YouTube, I guess, and what made us push into that direction. And for those that don't know, I've had my channel since May 2007, so quite a long time. But at that time I was mainly doing a lot of blogging and website content. I didn't really make any videos, but for some reason or other I did make my channel. But what was your entry into YouTube?
Well, I was the opposite of you. I stayed away from videos and cameras. I hated being online. So even though I opened up my channel in 2007 as well, I think it was April 2007 I opened my channel, I never posted anything. I avoided cameras. And then I think, I started teaching, and I came to Korea, and it was difficult to find any teachers sharing activities and ideas and things on classroom management. You were searching and there just wasn't anything. And so I took it upon myself. I said, okay, well, let's make some videos that I think might be useful. And so I think it was 2019, 18 or 19, I started uploading my first videos, and terrifying to look back at them now, comparing them to how it is now. But that's where it started.
Yeah. Well, yeah, my channel started in 2007, but I didn't really post anything official until maybe 2011, when I was doing my MA, and I had this video, this demo class that I was teaching as part of my MA course, and I thought, they asked me, do you want it recorded? And I thought, okay, I've heard things about people recording their lessons so they can reflect and they can see maybe their bad habits whilst they're teaching, which is a great way if anyone's interested in recording their lessons. It's a great opportunity to learn, of course.
It's so weird seeing yourself for the first time teaching on camera, but I guess people these days are so used to being on camera.
Yes,
but it was shocking. I think that's very new back then.
Back then, yeah. And then I got the DVD of the lesson from the university, and then I managed to burn it onto my computer. I used Windows Media Player to edit the video and splice all the footage together.
I didn't even know it had an editor.
It might have been Windows Media Player or Windows Media Editor.
Something like that.
Something like that, yeah. But it was just very, very basic, and very basic transitions with, titles. And I uploaded it, and it was about my teaching practice. And then immediately people were really curious about it because no one really recorded a lesson or shared it publicly before. And that was my first step into this platform of YouTube. And then it was relatively quiet. I wasn't posting that consistently. I'm not sure about you, but it was just dipping in and out of it.
I think as with anything, once you get invested in it, you try and improve, and so I was watching these videos on how to improve YouTube videos and YouTube tips. And one of the things that stood out to me was consistency. And so rain or shine, I would put out a video. I remember in my first couple of videos, I said something like a video will be out every Tuesday. And yeah, I think
You stuck to that as well, didn't
I
you?
think so. I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I pushed out a video. Recently, I've been. Yeah, sometimes it doesn't work out, but then you've got a plan for something to come up. But yeah, no. I just in my mind I saw that if I put out a video every week, and I used to do live streams,
Yes.
so 2 videos a week. In a year, I've got 100 videos.
Yes.
That's kind of what I thought.
That's a great way about it, isn't it? Yeah, consistency for me. And you know, you watch all these videos, recommendations for how to make it on YouTube and that sort of thing, and they say get a video out every week,
Yeah.
same time, same day, each week. But then for me, it's kind of hard. Yeah, I got to a point where I was making a video once a week,
Yeah.
but then I got to where I am now, and I think, okay, well, I'll make a video when I have time, because life does get in the way from time to time.
Yeah, but I feel like when I look at your videos, they're very creative and very thoughtful. When you make your videos, you put a lot into it. Whereas I feel like I kind of my mindset has been I want to cover every topic, and so if somebody looks up for something,
Yes.
they're gonna find. So I was just like. It's too much to put out a video every day or every second day, but at
Yeah.
least once or twice covering anything that might be popular. I just wanted a check mark next to everything.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
But then it's like planting seeds, isn't it? Some might sprout out really popular, and some may not get that popular. But
Very true.
Yeah.
You never know. You know, some videos. I remember my most popular, but I think you do need a little bit of success as motivation.
Yes.
If you went through life and there was never something, even if it's something small, to motivate you. So what happened was I was putting out videos. They weren't really good, looking back on it. But then one video blew up, and I was like, okay, well, if I keep on doing this and I get a few lucky breaks, you know, this could be a thing. And so, yeah, I think you do need a little bit of luck sometimes.
was that the video about the pen? Was that it?
That's it.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, so I made the pen video. I saw this. There was this trend of the pen game,
Yeah.
and I saw the video. I'm like, what is that? So I looked it up and I made a video. But then I thought it was too short, so I added another game. So I had 2 games, and so people were searching for the pen game, and they would find my video. And when you look at the analytics, it's like it goes until half. It's like 80 or 90% retention, and then it drops off. And I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Yeah, so that was mine. How about you? Did you have a moment like that?
I think for me, the video that I shared in the classroom, that seemed to pop up quite quick. Then there was times where I was doing maybe workshops for the local area where I was working in the UK. I gave a workshop about how to survive as an English teacher, teaching young kids in the summer, like English intensive programs. And they asked me, you know, can we record it? And I said, yeah, just give me the copy of the footage. And they had a good setup. They had the camera. They had the microphone
Lapel,
connected, lavalier mic, just connected directly to the camera. And you know, I spent 2 weeks editing that video, and then I got the slides, and then I input the slides onto the video, and it just seemed to be really popular, and that one just blew up. But I spent so much time editing
Well, that's worth it if you put in the effort and, you know, the results come. But other times, you know, I remember sometimes I've got these ideas for videos, passion projects.
Yes.
And I would spend money and time on them, and they would just do nothing. And then other times you make a video and you think, well, maybe
I haven't really put much effort into it, and it just
pick up.
blows
So
up.
yeah, it's just how the game is.
It is, yeah. But other videos have been quite popular. I suppose now I've seen like the transition of my YouTube journey. It started with in-class teaching, practical techniques that you can incorporate in class, and then it evolved. Then we got into like the pandemic, and then it was all like, how do you survive as an online teacher during COVID? And now it's all, or not all, but some is about online teaching. Online teaching platforms have gained some interest these days, of course.
See. Yeah, no, it's the same thing. So I put out videos and I thought, okay, well, let's go into some classroom management tips that I wish I knew, you know, because teaching in South Africa, I had some difficult classes. And then I came to Korea and I thought, okay, well, I wish I could pass on some of this knowledge. So I made videos on classroom management, and I still feel that's my bread and butter. But then I also, once the pandemic started, just went in on Zoom. I was like Zoom and all the games and everything. I pushed it hard. And then I started with maybe games and activities, and I thought that was kind of interesting. And now I'd like to do more on how to teach specific grammar, like when you recorded yourself in class. I kind of thought to myself, I wish I recorded myself in class to share some of the ideas or how I would do the class. And so I would like to do more of that. But recently, all these videos on these compilation videos of teachers quitting got popular.
Yes.
And so I started making these compilation videos. Not that I like them, and I think it might be discouraging, but they get thousands more views than my normal videos. So what I would like to do is balance it. Put out videos that are going to get a lot of views, and then put out videos that I feel would be useful for teachers out there.
Yeah, particularly those that you're passionate about. Those, like when it comes down to the brass tacks of teaching.
Okay, I want to talk a little bit about teaching. So, what got you into teaching?
This is going back maybe 20 years ago. I graduated from Southampton Solent University in the UK, and my background was the Air Force. I was in the Air Force for 3 years.
So RAF.
And I went back to the careers office and said, I'm here,
give me a job.
Give me a job again. And they said, no, thank you. We don't want the likes of you here. So I was left at a sort of a crossroads with my wife, who was from Korea. We got married in the UK. I'd never really been to Korea before. And I said to my wife, look, I can't get a job. There's no jobs around. Or there are jobs, but it's all like sales based and consultants, like agency work and that sort of thing. And I said, look, why don't we go to Korea, and I find a job in Korea. I get to know a bit more about your home culture, where you come from, a bit more about your family, and broaden our focus. And at that time, I'd probably been looking for a job for about 3 or 4 months, and then I went on to Dave's ESL Cafe.
Yeah, good old Dave. Yeah.
I put up my CV on Dave's ESL Cafe. I think there was another one called what was it? ESL or Korean.
It was wayguk.org a long time ago.
Yeah.
That was popular.
ESL Spectrum as well, I think, but this is going back many years. And then I had this Korean Hagwon owner, director. Within 2 days, he contacted me and said, do you want a job? And I was like, my God, I've got a job after looking for like 3 or 4 months, and it was immediate. Signed the contract there, and then we moved out from the UK in a matter of months, and I started my new job in December 2005. And it was really, I kind of fell in the job rather, into teaching, rather than, thinking at a young age, like, I want to be a teacher. That wasn't really my plan. My plan was, I need a job. I've got a young family and all that.
I feel it's like that for many teachers, you kind of find your way into teaching.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's how. How about yourself? How did you get into teaching?
Yeah, so, well, I went to school and I honestly had no idea what I wanted to do. And I started learning something about electronics, and but then I had some friends who were studying to become teachers, and I thought, you know what, actually, I'd like to travel more. And I mean, every country needs needs teachers. So I studied to become a teacher, and I worked for 2 years, and then I decided, listen, I don't want to wait around. So I started working at a school and studying at the same time. Called it SBT, school-based training. So the next 2 years I worked at schools in South Africa. While I taught, I was still doing assignments and studying, and graduated. And after I graduated, I thought, okay, I want to see the world, and came to Korea. And so you mentioned before Hagwon. So Hagwon is they are like the academies, the English academies. So worked at an English academy. It was really tough.
Yeah.
You know, like 1 p.m. or 2 p.m. till 10.
Yes. It's like the boot camp of teachers in Korea, isn't it?
Was hardcore, but I did appreciate back then. So this was 2010.
Yes.
I did appreciate the amount of teachers around back then. So you had these small communities, and it was really fun. And so I taught, and it was really tough because you work from 1 p.m. to 10 or 2 to 10, and you had barely you had no vacation. It's probably a week vacation.
A week vacation in the summer and a week in the winter.
It was horrible. And then I decided to stay in Korea, improve my job, and eventually I started working at a public school, public high school.
Yeah.
And that was a great experience. The students were amazing.
Yes.
And then
and you get a bit more flexibility with
Definitely.
public schools, like holidays and time off and that sort of thing.
It was more structured, and you weren't like when I say I was working from 2 to 10, it's teaching from 2 to 10.
Yes.
With 30 minutes in between. These days probably they're a bit more lenient, but
well, for me it was like 1 p.m. to 10 p.m. or 9 p.m. 50-minute classes and 10 minutes break in between. It was madness, and I had an hour for like not lunch but for like dinner.
I can't imagine doing it now.
I can't do it now.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah. But that's what I did.
That experience
for
helped.
14 months.
Yeah.
I did.
Same.
Yeah.
I think going through that, I think it kind of shaped us, and now you can look back and say, listen, I did do it. I made it through boot camp, teaching boot camp.
Yes.
And so you started teaching at that Hagwon.
Yeah.
As a new teacher, what were some difficulties that you faced? If you can think back,
Sure.
Yeah.
One of the biggest problems, well, not problems, but challenges that I encountered when I was working for this it was a family-run Hagwon, so it wasn't a big English chain like a big English franchise that they have in Korea, but it was a small family-run organisation, and the directors were brothers, and obviously when you're a small organisation you have to be quite sympathetic to the parents, because they're spending a huge amount of money to get their kids through.
Smile, be positive.
Yeah, no matter what, So I remember a time when, and I've probably told you this story before, but one time the director said to me, some of the parents are complaining that you're playing too many games in the class, and they want more grammar. And I was like, right, okay. I switched 180, just grammar, gap fills, grammar, and everything else like that. A week later, they turned around and said, we've had some complaints that you're just studying grammar and teaching grammar all the time. And in my mind, I'm thinking, that's what you wanted me to do. That's what you told me to do. And then they said, we want you to play more games. And I'm like, 1 week you say this and the other week you say that. But for me, I could understand, because they're just basically pandering to the parents who are demanding, we want this or we want that. Sometimes they're contradicting themselves, and they probably know it themselves, but that was a bit difficult to alleviate.
I think it's difficult criticism, because it can break you. I mean, if parents, or you hear through the grapevine, because the parents don't just come to you. I mean, back home, parents would contact you, and you would, if you're teaching at a school. But it can really break you if the kids say, teacher, I'm bored, or that the parents say the kids aren't learning enough, they're just playing games. So I think that criticism, you've got to think, is it true, is it not, and how can this help me? And if it can help you improve whatever, then it might be good.
I've got to a point now where I kind of roll with it. I'm not really, I don't have the energy to
be invested in.
or to disagree. It's like, okay, you want this? Yeah, fine. Okay, fair enough. And in my mind, I'm thinking it's not going to work at all. It's not going to work. But then I go, well, I'm not going to cause a scene.
Just
I'm
saying yes, but still doing what you're going to do.
Nodding and agreeing.
But I think, when I go through my classes, obviously you have this balance of activity for the students and learning. But I'm always thinking, wow, how can I improve this class? Because most of us, we've got a similar structure to our classes, and you redefine it and you polish it. How about you? What's your class structure like, and are you how comfortable are you with that?
My structure is fairly relaxed. It's flexible. I always have I'm going to go through a sort of a warmer brainstorming, activating all that knowledge that they probably already have, and then trying to teach the kids something, or they're not kids these days, young adults at university, but trying to impart something to them that they
got to walk out of there and be like, well, I learned something.
I learned something. But I don't want to get too serious. Again, this was a problem for me back in the UK. It was very structured and very formal when it came down to academic writing, whereas in Korea, there's not really that sort of high-level focused aspect of writing, because if they can find a shortcut, they'll do it, especially in this day and age with AI. So I thought, okay, well, what would be an easier way is to just get them to practice, and I'm not really going to be assessing their grammar, their vocabulary, or that sort of thing, but I'm going to give them feedback, but give them grades or marks based on how much they're able to complete in class. Sorry, I'm rambling a bit.
No, it's fine. It's interesting to hear. So yeah, basically, I feel like with
the structure of the lesson.
Yeah.
So my structure is introduction, activating their knowledge, get them to do something. Group discussions, a lot of group discussions. Nominating students, randomly.
You've got to, otherwise they're going to be lazy. If you don't call them out and everybody's got to have a chance, they're not going to do anything.
Exactly.
So
or I get a student, I say, right, you choose another student to answer this, and they're like,
that's pretty. I've never heard that before. Putting someone on the spot.
But then that's the best way to do it, because they all but that's the best way to do it, because then they're all active. And
they've got to be engaged. So I think same thing for me. What's really fun is, so with the university students, they need to learn, and especially they need to be more confident in their speaking, because that's been a big problem in Korea for a long time. Is they learn so much grammar because they have to study to the test, and they've got to prepare for that, and it's all about reading and grammar. And then as soon as they come to when you're teaching at Hagwon, or you're teaching at university, you want to prepare them to speak and to build their confidence. So it's important to have the students talk with one another, because not only do they practice their English, but they want to get to know each other too, and have interaction. And then, like you said, having partners work together, and I always play fun games or find ways to pick students randomly to perform in class, because they've got to be on the edge of their seat. They've got to be engaged.
Actually, the semester that's just started, there was a Korean student who's gone through. We have like an intensive English program that runs from March or April, and it goes through the entire semester, the summer as well, and then she's in one of my classes, my business English classes, and so she's usually really shy and polite and nervous and not really wanting to say anything, but I always like to take my time with students who don't have that confidence yet. And she was finding it really difficult to get the words out. But then I just kept pushing with her, and then immediately it just came out, and it was great to see, because then I was able to go to her and in front of the whole class, I said, that was amazing, that was really good, well done, and then gave her a bit of a clap, and everyone started applauding, and now she feels so much more confident in the classroom, where she's able to just call out the answer. If I nominate her, she's just
built her confidence like that.
Which is, confidence is key, isn't it, when it comes down to communication?
So how do you deal with quiet or shy students in the classroom? For me, like you said, I feel like helping. I try and give them as much time as possible, and I try to. Of course, you're going to ask them simple questions to build that confidence. So, I've had so many quiet students that, maybe they're actually really good at English, maybe they're not, but they should feel safe in that environment.
Yes, of course.
And once they feel safe, and you give them enough praise, they'll start talking more. And even if they make mistakes, it's not a problem. They can feel they're improving. So. If they make a mistake, the way that we as teachers react is also so important.
It is, and also the silence in the classroom, when it comes down to classroom silence, I just embrace it. I don't say anything. I'm just waiting for the student, because obviously there's a lot going on in their minds. There's so much that they're processing, they're thinking about, how do I answer this? What's the question? What's the actual meaning? And da-da-da-da-da-da. So I just wait there, and I'm just quite happy to sit down in the classroom. All the students are there, nervous and like, is she going to answer? Is he going to answer? And I just sit there and I just wait until something comes out. And I'm not really rushing them. I'm just waiting.
I think it's difficult to be comfortable in that silence. Well, for me, like, obviously, I think one of the biggest mistakes teachers make is they need to fill that silence with noise, either them talking. And so when they ask us, and that's the thing, is a lot of teachers, they might ask a question, the student's not going to answer, and they think, okay, I'm just going to continue speaking. Whereas, so what I like to do is, you need to give your student enough time to reply. But what I like to do is, I would repeat a question often, and if they're struggling, I might start it for them. So I might start the answer, and then they continue. But it takes some experience just to get that balance right, because obviously you don't want to wait 5 minutes for a student who might not say anything, but you're going to guide them along the way. And so the students kind of understand there's this expectation of you have to answer, you have to say something instead of not saying anything. Have you had any more successes with like shy or quiet students, or how do you feel it's best to get the English out of them?
I like to try and spend a bit of time outside of the classroom with the students, maybe having tutoring sessions or consultations with them. And so something that I try and do whilst I'm teaching during the semester is take time out for each student to spend 10 minutes with me outside the classroom in my office, and we can just have a chat and see how things are going, for them to reflect and give them a space where they feel comfortable, where they feel that they can share something with me.
Because what I do with my classes, when I start class, I've got a paper with the students' names on a register, but I also have space where I write down details. And every time I start class and I ask everyone, well, I go through the register to check the names, but it's more a chance for me to get to know them, and for them, as soon as they're more comfortable sharing something about themselves. What did you do last weekend? Where are you from? Or what's your favorite animal? Whatever it is, you make notes, and the students also get more comfortable
Yes.
talking with you. But I like that idea of spending 10 minutes with students outside of class, for them
Yeah.
to become, to see you as a person.
Yeah, and there's already that divide in Korea where, students have to call their teacher or professor by the particular name, like Gyosonim or something like that, or Sonsingnim, and it creates that divide already where it's like a hierarchy.
Yeah.
And
they're afraid to make mistakes if they have to be
So
super polite.
I tend to say to my students, just call me Martin.
Same.
Just call me Martin. That's my name.
I don't care. Call me Martin. But it's strange. It depends. In South Africa, when I was teaching, sometimes you would. I was teaching at the school, and then you'd be called Sir or Mr. Wesh.
Yes, yeah.
And so, that's a standard. And then at other places, I remember the third school I went to. So the first 2 years of I worked at a English school, and it was a primary school and a high school combined, and very, very English. So we said Sir, Mr. Wesh. And then I moved to another school, and they were way more laid back.
Yeah.
But they would call you on your name.
Yes.
Call you by your name. But actually, the discipline in that second school was way better than the first one, even though it sounded more polite. So I think one of the things I learned, it happened in Korea. There was a student that I had great rapport with. He was, this was in Korea, he was fun, he was smiling, but we had good rapport, he was working hard in class. And then I heard somewhere that, if you have respect for someone, you would call them, you would speak this way to them.
Yes.
But he was very comfortable with me, and he said this, and I didn't know Korean, and I said, no, you have to be more polite with me. And he kind of changed.
Right.
He was like, because he felt like, oh, we've got such a nice relationship. I work hard in class. I didn't do anything bad. We had and I kind of spoiled that by bringing up the hierarchy.
Yes, yeah.
But it depends.
But you've got to go through that. You've got to make those mistakes because as a teacher, you're learning as well, aren't you? And it's like, oh, okay, well, maybe, okay. I'll keep the status quo, keep it comfortable,
If this is a question I want to ask. If you could do it all again, so let's say you could plan out how you would be a teacher the first couple of years of your career, how would you go about it with the knowledge that you have there? Like you go to the same schools, you've got everything that you need. Well, how would you be a successful teacher, get the most out of it?
Oh gosh, every journey's different, isn't it? Everyone's journey as a teacher is different. Do I have certain regrets as a teacher? I do. I suppose for me, when it comes down to, I spent 9 months in Romania, and it was the worst decision I made.
Really? When was that? Like in between Korea and England?
That was between England and Korea. So I think it was around 2012 or so.
Okay.
And I had itchy feet. I was like, I want to go abroad again. I want to teach abroad. And it's like, I got this really nice job offer, but then I didn't realise the implications into like, okay, I'm going to be abroad by myself. My wife and son are going to be in the UK. And I was kind of, I thought this is going to all work out sort of thing, but it didn't, because I'm away from my family and that sort of thing. And that would probably be one thing I wouldn't do again in my teaching career, to go abroad where my family and I are separated. But I learned from that. You learn from those experiences, the struggles, the issues and challenges, and you end up going, right, okay, well, I won't do that again. And so since then, it's like everything that I've made a decision for about teaching or my career has always been negotiated with my wife and I.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I got to a point when I was working for a private language school in the UK, and I said to my wife, okay, I've been in this position 7 years now, and I want to negotiate my salary. I've been there a long time.
Yeah.
I need a
There's
decent
an
salary.
expectation, yeah.
So I went to the directors and I said, look, let's negotiate our salary. And they said no. And within an hour, I wrote up my resignation letter, spoke to my wife, and she was like, yeah, go, leave the company.
Wow.
They obviously don't value you enough. And it's like,
For 7 years though too.
yeah, and so I wrote up my resignation letter, handed it in, and I was half expecting them saying, okay, let's negotiate the salary. But they never did.
Be grateful for what happened.
So they never expected that. So, certainly maybe in my early career, I suppose I've always negotiated or included my wife into the conversation of my career and my teaching and that sort of thing. But then in respect to that, my wife has always included me in her ideas and decisions about her interpreting, her translation, her employment, and that sort of thing.
Well, it's very interesting that you say that. Usually we would encourage new teachers, go out and make mistakes, not big mistakes, but go out and travel and do things. But your situation's different, where you had a family quite young, and still you went out and you tried something new and it didn't work out, and you changed career. It's like you're in a sailboat. You can only change. You're not going to change the wind, but you can change the direction in which you want to go.
Of course. And I suppose if I have any advice for anyone who's going into teaching, is always trust your instinct. If something doesn't seem right,
that's a good tip.
Change it before it changes you.
You get stuck. You can get stuck in your ways, but if you feel something's not good. But then again, it comes with a caveat where it's like, don't just change because you're uncomfortable. But if there's something wrong and fundamentally you're unhappy, you'd rather go somewhere else.
Yeah, of course. It's the easiest. Well, it's easy to suggest, but then maybe for other people it can be quite difficult to go through that themselves, isn't it? Everyone's experience is different. And my experience of teaching was I was already in I had a young family and everything else like that, so my priorities were family based, and stability was king, because I had the poor years when I was a student in the UK, bringing up a young son, and being married and just trying to make ends meet. And one time I didn't have enough money to get petrol for my car to go to university and study.
So, what's difficult about being a YouTuber? What is something that a lot of people don't really think of when it comes to YouTubing?
For me personally, it's quite a lonely journey if you're a solo YouTuber. You end up creating videos by yourself.
So many hours.
And I lock myself away in the room and end up editing videos, and it can get a bit embarrassing when my wife's walking in and out of my room where I'm editing, and she says a passing comment like, you always love looking at yourself whilst you're editing, sort of thing. That's like, well, that's my
part
YouTube
of my
channel.
job. Yeah, I've got to look at myself. But it's interesting is when you first start, you hate hearing your own voice and your own face. So when you start off and you've got to edit these hours and hours of videos, and you just hear your own voice, and then later on, now you're at a point where it's like, oh, it's that guy again.
Yeah.
So it's part of the job.
It's part of the job, and I've kind of got used to listening to my own voice, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
And you end up having the opportunity to develop that sort of vocal skill, because it has to come from your diaphragm, doesn't it, when you're speaking? And then that certainly helps when it comes down when you're in the classroom, because you've got to project your voice.
You do.
And it's something I teach my students as well when they have to do presentations. I say it's got to come from within. You've got to really come from your diaphragm rather than from your
it's funny though, I think this is just not for YouTubers but for anyone. confidence, where I used to hate the sound of my own voice, and I thought, I've got such a squeaky voice, or I don't like my voice. And then randomly, I would meet people, and they say, "Oh, you've got such a nice voice," and I thought, well, that's the last thing I would have complimented. But no, so we've got to realize sometimes we don't like something, or we're afraid, or are not confident in something, but it's actually not that bad.
Yeah.
The way we see ourselves is different than someone else would.
Yeah, I remember actually going back when I was a kid, when I was learning how to play saxophone. One of my saxophone teachers said, you've got to record yourself playing and then listen to how you play. And that's how I was first introduced to, okay, I've got to listen to how I'm playing. And I hated it. I hated listening to myself playing the saxophone because it sounded awful, absolutely awful.
It's such a cool instrument, though.
It's
by
a
the way.
nice instrument.
Very cool.
But when I was like 12 or 13, having to record myself with a cassette tape at that time.
Wow, that's a long time ago.
Oh, it was awful. But then you kind of learn, okay, I feel uncomfortable with this, but I've got to get over that. And I think it's the same with YouTube. It's like you feel that sense of, or that you doubt yourself, but you got to
push through that. Being uncomfortable. You said YouTube is a very lonely thing.
Yeah.
You've got to, like, I hate shooting videos. And you procrastinate and you stop yourself. And then eventually you push yourself to shoot video, and then it's like, okay, I'm shooting these videos. And then it's impossible for me to work at home. So I always go to a study cafe. In Korea, you've got these study cafes where you sit for hours. So you log in 4 hours or 6 hours and you just sit there and you edit. But I'm very grateful towards my parents. Especially my dad helps me with my videos. And so where, I've got massive amounts of respect for you, where you do everything on your own. But for me, I've always had my parents like saying, Eric, that's good, or that's interesting, or I liked it when you did this. So they've been a great source of motivation for me, and so I'm fortunate to have them in my life doing all of that. So they're always giving me feedback, mostly positive.
That's good. But everybody's going through the same journey if they ever start up with YouTube or any form of content creation.
You've got to find whatever you need, so if you're alone, you've got to find some motivation in probably the art of what you're doing, or to just take every positive, blow it out of proportion and use that to build your confidence, instead of I think we're so quick to focus on the negatives and to focus on the mistakes we've made.
Sure.
It's life is funny like that, where maybe you've got these successes, but you're like happy for a moment and then you move on. But if you look back at your failures, you kind of and I think that's not just for content creation, for teaching, it's for life.
Of course.
Focus on the positives.
That's right. Now for me, when it comes down to creating content, I go through a sort of a peaks and troughs of content creation. And for me, it's like I feel so guilty at times when I haven't published any videos for 2 or 3 weeks, and then all of a sudden I create like 4 or 5 videos, and it's like bum 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 bum. It's like, here you go. I'm really sorry. I've been really guilty, but here's the videos that you've all been waiting for. And then I go quiet again. Yeah,
until you're ready.
Incommunicado, and then it's like, okay, I feel guilty again. I've got to make all these videos, and it's just up and down.
There's a mosquito there. Wait, yeah. Ah. Almost got it. Okay, sorry. No. It's well, that's why I said I've got this every week. I put something out, and some weeks it's been difficult.
Yeah.
But being accountable for your work, I think what makes a good teacher is your preparation.
Yeah.
So I think going into the classroom, if you have to worry about what you're teaching, the goals you've set, the material that you're going to use, if so often we just go into the classroom and we just want to teach. But I think if you're a new teacher, you've got to spend even more time preparing.
Yeah.
Because if you've got enough activities, you know what the grammar you have to teach. You're not lazy about preparing for class. You can focus. The students will pick up on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can focus on the things that are important because you've already taken care. So I think that's the one thing that I would like to do more is, be more prepared.
Be more prepared. I think my career here in Korea, it sounds a bit weird, my career here in Korea, my career in teaching has gone through periods where I've started a new journey and I've had to learn. I feel like I'm right at the beginning again, if that kind of makes sense. So my first 3 years in Korea teaching, obviously the first 3 months I just put my head down, I learned what was expected and just delivered what was required, and I just kept going. And then when I returned back to the UK, it was like I was right back at the beginning again because I hadn't taught international students. And then I was like, okay, well, I feel like I'm right at the beginning, and what can I do to improve myself? I'll do an MA. And then I studied an MA and did that. Was quite content for a period of time. I was like, right, okay, well, I wasn't happy with my job that I told you about previously. So it's like, okay, what's the next step? Okay, I'll work at a university in the UK. I've got the MA. I got interviewed and they accepted me, thankfully. And again, I was shifted right back at the beginning again because I had to learn a whole new process and a whole new content and all those expectations. And then it happened again when I came to Korea. It's like, okay, these are your classes. And then it's like the expectations have always been different to the different jobs that I've had. Although it's all been related to teaching, it's not always been the same type of teaching.
Yeah, it differs. Well, I think that the great thing about teaching is it's you in front of students helping them learn something. It's about your classroom management.
Yeah.
It's about the best techniques, the best ways to get them to learn the knowledge and to help them learn the skills. So that's nice, but like you said, every time you move, it's a new school, new types of students, new curriculum that you've got to master. But I think for every teacher out there, you've got to build your build the knowledge you have, build the activities, build your skill sets, so that every time you move, it just takes a slight adjustment for you to master it. Otherwise, you're not growing as a teacher.
Yes, that's right. And you spoke about like sort of constantly reflecting on what you were doing to try and improve yourself, and I think that's so crucial when it comes down to teaching. Regardless of what institute you're at, you just got to keep reflecting on your teaching.
I think it can be a immensely positive thing, but I think the way I used it initially was quite negative. It's like, oh, I'm so bad, I should be better. Oh, I made this mistake. So I wouldn't necessarily tell anyone to do it like that. But over time, I was like, well, I want to improve. I want to do better. And I think if it comes from a place of a positive place, then it's more useful than lambasting yourself for not doing well.
That's true. One of the difficulties I had when I first came here 2 years ago, did you get it?
I think so.
One of the challenges that I had 2 years ago when I came to Korea, because UK universities and Korean universities are completely different. In Korea there's that grading curve system they have, the reflective grading sort of, all to do with grade inflation and that sort of thing. But in the UK there's no restriction. You can do as good as you can possibly do and get the grade that's commensurate to that. And so for me that was a bit of a shift because I'd never really been involved in university education in Korea, and I was like, oh my god, and it's awful when you have a classroom filled with great students
and
who
you've
are
got to
really
bring them down,
and there's a certain number of students who it's like, I'm really sorry, you're going to get a B, and then the A students, good job, well done, and then the C students, I'm really sorry, and they feel really annoyed and frustrated, but then you have to try and negotiate or inform the students the reasons why, and it's always supporting my decision based on the evidence that
It's difficult. I feel the same, where I feel like I want every student to succeed, because that's why we teach. But then, and so sometimes it's difficult. You've got to push some students down, but other teachers are perfectly happy not doing it like that. But I heard recently that students actually have a word for teachers that tend to mark more positively or grade more positively. They call them an A+ teacher, because you're more likely to get an A+. But I think it's okay to be positive, and if it's fair, if like you said, if they've got the evidence of the grades and they did well and they put in the efforts. And I think that's more what teachers are. We're effort producing teachers. We try and get our students to do more.
Sure.
How has the experience been for you? Like you said, you've got international students and Korean students. I think, why don't we talk about the differences in teaching these different students?
I've been very fortunate to have taught not just Korean students over my teaching career, but European, South American, Middle Eastern students. So I've already had that exposure. And now Korea, as we probably have read in the news and we're aware of, they're facing a decline in birth rate. And there's more reliance these days for international students to come over and study at university. This is a positive for us, because we're able to teach students not just from Korea but from around the world. And I've been teaching students from Russia, from Switzerland and Spain and all the other countries that I used to teach from, as well as Korean. And for me, the traditional Korean student who's a little reticent, a bit shy, not so outgoing, and then you've got a European who's like completely the opposite. It's a recipe for disaster in some ways, but hopefully no disasters yet, touch wood. It just makes it more important for educators, for teachers who are teaching international students, to be a bit more aware of culture and how it impacts in the classroom.
I think Koreans, or one of the things is that they're always modest about their abilities, and so students rarely want to stand out. They don't want to make a splash. So, because if you make a mistake, it reflects on you as a person, so they don't want to make mistakes, and also they don't want to stand out. And so even though it's very rare for students that are very good at English to speak out, occasionally you get some students that are very confident and okay with it, especially if they've traveled or been abroad. And so I think getting students to be comfortable communicating and talking to new people and being able to converse on various topics is very important. And then with international students, I think they've already got that confidence. Helping them get along and understand the points of view of someone from Korea is also, I think, something that's kind of that's difficult as a teacher. You've got to balance.
Yes, that's true. Also, I've noticed not just Korean students, but also students from maybe Southeast Asia. They tend to group into their own bubbles, their own little communities. And I had 2 Chinese students who, obviously, their grammatical awareness was very good, their reading comprehension is very good, but their communicative skills are just a little bit lacking. So I got them over to my office, I sat them down, and I just had a chat with them both. Immediately they were trying to translate with their phone what I was saying. I said, no, put that away, let's go.
This is not about accuracy,
challenge.
This is about you just talking.
And I said, look, what friends have you made? Have you made friends outside of just Chinese students. No friends,
very
nothing
rare.
like that. So I said, right, you're coming with me. And then I called over 2 Korean students who were on my program earlier this year, who went through this intensive English program. And I said to them, look, I want some really good English speakers. You two are the best. Come over with me. These are some Chinese students. They don't know anyone. They need to improve their English speaking. So go and help them out as much as possible. And then they finished chatting to them. They shared their phone details and everything else like that. Said, right, Chinese students, come with me. I'm going to take you to another office. You're going to have a chat to some European students. And it's also just going through and helping students. And this is things outside of the classroom, like we were talking about. What you could do as an educator to help get students feeling more comfortable, at ease, trying to communicate, trying to find their voice, and knowing that everybody is in the same boat, and you have to try and help them.
Yeah, I think the most successful students that integrate the best are the ones that are open to communicating and making friends. But you just don't become that way. It takes practice, and so you're actually pushing those girls to say, okay, not just with your friends, go and meet these new people. It probably was a massive leap in terms of their development.
Of course.
So yeah, no, it's great. I think with shy students in the class is also getting them to talk to other people and doing it in a fun way. So I think a lot of the activities you do it. That's why we have games, is for them a simple and fun way for students to interact and to get to know each other, so they're comfortable in talking. But one of the rules I have in my class is like, nobody is shy. I always say nobody is shy. When you come in that door, you are a talking machine. Talk. And so I think it's a nice balance of getting the students involved with each other, the talkers versus the shy students.
And how do you get students interacting with each other? What sort of things do you do to get them talking?
Well, the easiest way, I think so, you've got to build it up, you want to make it as simple as possible for them. So you're not just going to say, okay, have a conversation. You want to structure it. So first, I might write a question on the board. Ask your friend these 3 questions. So I've got all 3 questions up there. And with the more basic students to start off with, I might give them some example answers. So they've got something to reach to. It's not just like, hey, have a conversation. They're like, oh, here's a structure that I can follow.
Yeah.
And then, so that's going to be the first thing. And then after that, you're going to say, okay, well, this was the structure. Now I want you to include more of yourself in there. So you use that. And then after that, you could have more where the students have a question, and then they have to create their own follow-up. And then after that, you always want to have something for them to build onto. So then you're going to say, well, write your own 3 questions that you would have. So you're making them more comfortable in using the material and putting it in place. So that's what I do with my students. And by the end, let's say each new step that they take and pushes them, into a place that they're unfamiliar with. And then they grow in confidence. And then towards the end, you can say, okay, you guys have a conversation about this topic. It has to be 1 minute long, but you always have to give them the variables. If you just say, do this, they go, it's too much for them. So you've got to guide them and
help them along
the way.
Yeah, that makes sense. I suppose for me, my favorite activities to develop those conversational skills would be surveys. I love doing surveys. Pen and paper, not just hiding behind their digital devices. It's like, no, you're going to get up, you're going to move around. You're going to ask 3 different students, and you've got like, have you ever questions, or do you know someone who, that sort of thing.
You can do it with anything. I love surveys. It's so useful, especially for students, like when the students first come into class, they don't know anyone. It's different if you're teaching at a public school and the students have the same classes over and over. But at university, you've got 1 class a week with students that they don't know, and they're shy, but they really want to meet each other. So once you do these surveys, it gives them an opportunity to get to make new friends.
Of course.
It's so important.
Of course.
And it's so funny the first time you see them, they're like, oh, I've got to get up now. And then later, everyone's standing and meeting and smiling.
Yeah.
Such a fun experience.
Yeah. And I also try and mix the students up. So, let's say I've got half a class of Korean students and half international. I try and pair up international and Korean students all together, like not just Korean students and not just international. I want to get them all mixed up, and so they feel a bit more comfortable in time. That it's like, okay, I'm a XYZ student, and I'm from a certain country, and I'm quite happy and comfortable speaking with another person from another country. And if you're able to give that sort of confidence to the students, impart that confidence for them, then they'll feel much more comfortable at just going out and speaking to different people regardless.
Well, I think what's important is also teaching our students how to interact, because where they really improve is if they're able to share more of themselves. But it's difficult if you tell the students, okay, I want you to have a conversation. Most of the conversations that they can have is like, oh, where are you from? What did you do?
Yeah.
Do you have a brother or sister? What's your favorites? Food, color, movie.
Yeah.
But so we've got to help our students asking follow-up questions or sharing more of their own experiences, and then moving from one topic to the next, and it being more organic. So the more we can support our students to confidently transition between these topics and how to ask questions and share, it's better than just having the cutout of like, oh, what's your name? Where are you from?
Yeah. That's true. That's true.
So that's fun if you have international students, because it's interesting, it's different where they're from, and they can share more of their culture. And we should use more culture in the classroom if possible.
I'm all for sharing culture. And also, these days I've been teaching presentation classes, and I've changed it round to getting students to tell a story, share a story.
I like that.
And there's a sort of presentation style that I've incorporated, and I demonstrate it initially, and it's part of their final exam. It's like, okay, I'm going to give a Etacude presentation. Have you heard of Etacude? Yeah. So it's, for those that don't know, Etacude's 20 slides, 20 pictures, and it transitions every 20 seconds. So 6 minutes 40, 6 minutes 20, something like that.
Really nice for telling a story.
Really good for telling a story. So I give the example of either going on a holiday to Japan, and it's got a beginning, middle, and end, and then I teach the students about storytelling, what is included in a story, and the story arc of like beginning, challenge, struggle, and you overcome it, and then the end of that,
that's
that story.
Interesting. I like that.
And then I say, okay, you're going to tell your own story. It's got to be personalised, so no reliance on AI to tell the story. You've got to try and share something that you've learnt or experienced or reflected upon, and then the students find their own voice based on this, because it's all personalised, and it could be like my first week at the university, or I've had students share their first week at the university, or my experience of my arrival in Korea if they're international students, or my holiday with my family,
my trip to Japan, something like that.
So they all come out with their own personal ideas, and that for them, they have to stand in front of students, no script, and they have to deliver this story. And they all, most of the time, 99 times out of 100, amazing, really interesting stories.
I think when it comes to presentations, it's so fun. It's important for me to go through some of the common mistakes and errors or things, especially when it comes to body language and also the structure of whatever presentation they're doing. A lot of them, like for example, they don't have a beginning or a last slide, and they just do their presentation and they finish, and they look at you and you're like, where's the ending? Where's the call to action? Where's
the question? So you asking any questions?
So you've got to teach them those skills, because a lot of times we just assume the students understand everything. And then even I remember some basics. This isn't a problem I had, but just as an example, the students were doing a presentation, and one of the professors, they were really keen on students not wearing hats or hoodies or things like that. So it's part of it too. For me, I like to tell my students to remember not to touch themselves while they're doing a presentation, or
take the mask off whilst you're presenting as well.
Basic skills. You're not stuck to the podium. Be free to walk around, to point.
Course. Yes,
so these are things that it might seem simple, everybody should know, but not all. The students don't all know it.
And not all teachers incorporate it. So it's important to. And actually, when it comes down to presentations, my grade and my rubric includes body language, movement, gestures, and the quality of the presentation. Yes, no text on the presentation, and no, if you're using a script, how much do you rely upon it, if at all? And if students don't have a script, or they know what they want to say and they deliver it, then that's top marks for that point as well.
It's interesting too. So we've got our rubrics, what we have to look out for. One of this is one of the biggest issues I've had. I remember it was my first year at university, so I'm new there, lots of professors, and we were supposed to rate, the students were doing a presentation on marketing, on business or something.
Yes.
So I think we were like a panel of like 5 professors sitting there, and then all the best students would come out and do their presentations on something business related. And there was this one student who spent a lot of time in Canada. So he was fluent and he was charming. And his presentation was basically my trip to Canada. But he said, I was opening up a touring company. But he didn't have an introduction to everything. He didn't have a conclusion. It was just him being able to talk about a topic that wasn't even business related.
Right.
And the next in line was a girl that... she's Korean, so she wasn't as fluent, but it was well structured. It was about, I think it was about Starbucks or something, and she brought up some interesting information, business related. And I remember thinking about it. I was like, yeah, the guy spoke well, but he made so many other errors, whereas the rest of the professors were enamored with him, saying, he's like fantastic. And I remember our head Korean teacher, the head of the department, walking by and saying, I hope you guys didn't vote for him to win. And I was like, I wonder why she said it. It's because, and I was thinking about it, and she left. And they tallied up the scores, and most of the professors gave him the best score. And I was like, why? And ever since then, I had a mistrust. But it also helped me reflect on myself. How many times have I made a mistake like this?
Well, it's interesting you say that. Last weekend, I was invited to go to an English speech contest where they had students, it was in Nonsan, and they had some students there, elementary students, middle school students, high school students, and university students. And they were giving presentations out, and there was an award, some small amount of money that was being awarded. And I remember one of the university students was talking, and it was to do with Confucianism and its relation to
what's Confucius called in Korean again? It's like
Yukyo.
Yukyo. Yeah, it's got a different name.
It has, yeah. So anyway, this guy, he gave really, really good English. He spent time in Canada as well. Really, really good English, and his focus was Squid Game and its connection with Confucianism.
Okay.
And he delivered everything. He was really animated. He was really keen, very enthusiastic, engaged with the audience. Really good for that. But then at the end of it, I was thinking, I was with the other judge, and I said, I don't think Squid Game has anything really connected with Confucianism.
It's just a hot topic?
It's more of a societal connection. Squid Game emulates society in Korea.
Instead of Confucianism.
Yeah, and he agreed. The other judge agreed. And he was fourth out of the 7 university students. And he came up to us at the end and he said, "Is there anything I could have done?" I said, "Your presentation style was really good. Just the content itself, just I didn't see the connection with Confucianism and
It's a bit of a
Squid
grasp.
Game."
Yeah.
And it was a bit of a grasp, and the others were like people who related Confucianism to society and culture, Korean culture, and its export, and how people should be aware of Confucianism, and it's seen as maybe a old-fashioned style system, but it's still
Relevant today.
And that had better grounding, although maybe some of the other presenters weren't fluent as this guy was.
It made more sense.
It made more sense. It was connected better. But then, he asked me in English, I replied basically, and then he went to the Korean judge, asked the same thing in Korean, and then thankfully the Korean guy said exactly the same thing in Korean to him, and it was like, right, we were both agreeing.
Yeah, I think there are lots of stories of like us trying to help students, but teaching is just your learning as you go.
Of course.
And the fact that you constantly have like kids or students around you, it just means that you're learning on the job.
You are. The elementary school students who were doing their presentations, again, really cute kids and what have you. They'd learnt their lines. Some of them had the scripts, some didn't. They just learnt it and delivered it as is.
Yeah.
And there was one girl, one of the last girls, and she delivered a really good presentation, very natural, and she was just really at ease and just scratching her leg and just talking in English. And I thought, she's good. Although she wasn't like presenting, she's a young girl at the end of it. One of the parents was complaining. The other parents were complaining, she shouldn't get first, that's terrible, she was mumbling. And I turned around and I said, parents shouldn't be the ones to judge other kids' presentation. It's not their responsibility. And this parent was getting really emotional and upset because they wanted their little Johnny or little Juliet to get
It's
top
funny.
marks.
I saw this video of talking about sports and parents getting very animated when it comes to sports. I think it's great that parents are involved and they try the best for their kids. you know. It's better than having parents that aren't interested at all. But as a teacher, it's also, I think one of the best things about teaching abroad or teaching university, or we don't have to interact with the parents. Whereas back home, when I was teaching public school, in South Africa, like I would meet the parents, and it was great too. You meet some really nice parents, but also, you didn't always get all the feedback and things that could be improved upon.
It's an interesting dynamic here in Korea. I don't really have that much interaction with parents, thankfully. There are issues in society here in Korea where parents have pressured teachers so much so that they've taken their life, of course.
It's been really tough.
It's been really, really tough. And I feel sorry, parents have greater expectations for their kids, which is good. It's nice to have those expectations, but then there's got to be some negotiation between parents and teachers.
So teachers are held to a higher regard, and so in Korea, I've seen these public school teachers. They've got, and even especially if you work in high school in Korea, you as a teacher, you're working from the morning into the evening, and you've got to plan special classes, and you're just pressed by by other teachers. You're pressed by management. You're pressed by the parents and the kids. So it's very stressful.
High stress. But it's an interesting experience, particularly for those that have the opportunity to travel abroad, and work abroad. You learn certainly a lot more outside abroad than you do being stuck at home and being quite...
I think, it's amazing. I remember when I first started traveling, I thought, well, it would be amazing if I could live a couple of years in different countries and experience the educational system. Being able to travel and seeing all these countries, I think it's also makes you realize you can only control your space.
Yes.
The people in your area and what you're teaching. So yeah, but
That's true.
being accountable is important. Okay, well, a topic that just came up that a lot of people are talking about is many teachers have been fired because of raising their political beliefs. Especially recently, I saw this thing where a student complained about a teacher talking about politics in the classroom, and the teacher got suspended. So what are your thoughts about politics in the classroom, teachers sharing their beliefs that might be different from what their students or the students' parents believe?
Well, I suppose when it comes down to politics, there's certain aspects that I was taught when I first started teaching that certain topics are off limits. Things like politics, religion, sex, drugs, that sort of thing. So these were things that I would not really encourage in the classroom, or if a student was wanting to talk about it, I'd listen. I'll give them the space for them to share whatever they wanted to share, but I wouldn't, input my view, opinion, agreement or disagreement. I would just allow that student to say what they wanted to say, but I wouldn't give any ammunition to students to critique me on personal beliefs and opinions, because I feel, everybody has an opinion, whether it's about politics or religion or whatever it is, and it's so divided. You can talk about it till the cows go home. You can't necessarily agree, because everyone's going to disagree with what your opinion is, whereas someone else might have a completely different opinion. So when it comes down to any of these sort of topics, I would not necessarily voice my opinion, and I've come from an era where there's some sense of reserved, discreet opinions about politics, and I'll go back to my...
You don't share it publicly, you keep it to yourself?
Yeah. And it's probably from the era of when I was in the Air Force, where if you're in the military, whoever's in government, you have to just agree and accept it. You might not agree with them, with what they're doing, but they're your boss. And if the media come, and I was told, if the media comes to interview you off base, just say no comment, because you don't want to give any ammunition, public ammunition against you, and call into question the whole military aspect. I think for teachers in the public sphere, it's in the similar vein, where you don't want to put the school, the education, the public, government into disrepute to where they might not agree with you.
I feel like a big thing is that, so you've got different sides. Let's say you've got two sides to a topic. I feel like with politics, people feel that they are right and that the other side is living in a different world dimension. So if someone gets to a point where they can't even see some of the ideas in the other side, that they're delusional, and they share their own opinion as fact, that's where you get into a tricky space, because a lot of teachers might feel like they are so correct in their worldview, and that they want to share that with their students, and then the students and the parents don't feel the same way. And so that's where a lot of teachers get blindsided by thinking that they're incorrigible. Everything is correct about their thinking. And as a teacher, that's happened to me before, where I was so sure of something, and then upon reflection, years later, I kind of realized that who am I to decide things where there might be many opinions.
Of course. The UK have had their issues when it comes down to immigration and government, and the protests and the strikes and the question of free speech and everything else like that. And there's elements of truth regardless of where you sit on the political spectrum. There's elements of truth where things are acceptable on one camp, whereas on the other camp it's unacceptable. But I don't go sharing my opinions. I like to keep it discreet, and I don't want to
do you still feel that way? So just for some context, recently many teachers have been suspended or fired because they voiced their opinion on Charlie Kirk, who got assassinated. And so parents and school boards found out because now we've got TikTok, we've got Instagram, people sharing their feelings towards something, and you might have the other side that disagrees. And how would you, do you think it's correct? Your point of view is not to say anything, or how do you feel about it?
Well, the whole issue of Charlie Kirk being assassinated, it's reprehensible. You know, it's awful. Anyone to lose their life is terrible. Yeah. You know, and not only did his family lose a husband and a father and a son, you know, you think about the family that he's left behind. It's terrible. It's really terrible. Regardless of where you sit or where you agree or disagree, just to eliminate someone just because you disagree with them is not really conducive to society. You know, you can disagree with someone, but respectfully, but you don't go and kill someone because you disagree with them. That's, you know, what's the difference between you and you know, some, you know, it's crazy.
But the fact is that teachers spoke out about it, and they said, well, you know, you deserved it, which nobody deserves anything like that. But do you think that the teachers were wrong voicing their opinions, or it's their right to free speech?
It's a wobbly scope because, you know, you could say, okay, well, you know, it's really hard because, you know, if someone's lost their life, that's it. That they've lost their life. Someone's killed them. That's a fact of it.
Yeah.
But then, whatever you agreed or disagreed with about this individual, that's a completely different.
Doesn't
point.
make it right. It doesn't give anyone the right.
No. And you know, you're not only going to give more exposure to yourself, voicing your own opinion, and blaming someone for their own demise. It's, you know, it's a horrible way of looking at it, because he was a human. He was he was a man. I can't understand how people could.
Yeah, well, say that it's okay, but so another topic that came up, and we're going to bring it back to teachers being able to voice their opinions on social media, whether you agree with them or disagree with them. But Jimmy Kimmel recently, you know, he got sacked from his show, and a lot of people say, well, you've got. He's got a right to free speech, and how is this different from teachers talking about different topics and being held accountable for the words they say?
Well, I think everybody in a sense of public space has a duty and a responsibility for voicing their opinion. So Jimmy Kimmel had his platform, which he
removed,
which he shared his political opinions, but he has a responsibility and a duty.
It's not a personal platform. No. He's an employee.
TV.
So he's held accountable to the station.
And then as teachers, you know, they have a platform to voice their own opinions to a classroom or online to other educators or what have you. Whenever you put something online, that's always going to go back to you.
Yeah, it's your responsibility.
It's your responsibility. You could look at it with some politicians. You know, there's certain politicians where their history of tweeting has contradicted how they're acting now.
And people look back at it and say, look at what you're
it's like
hypocrites, you're saying this.
And that
but I think for teachers it's even more important because we've got these students and our personal opinion and the things we think, we are there to help our students learn things, but we also we want them to learn valuable truths of the world. But sometimes there are different truths to something and different opinions. and we can go in with the kindest hearts and the best intentions.
Sure. And I think it's good to have a debate, it's good to have a discussion, and maybe this is going back to maybe teaching and getting students to find their
Open
voice.
up. Yeah. But being apolitical is important.
It's like, how do you debate respectfully?
Yeah.
That's what makes it more important than, completely disagreeing and shutting down. And it's to do with maybe developing critical thinking skills with our students. And perhaps as educators ourselves, we have to develop those critical thinking skills ourselves. So it's like, okay, well, maybe did I agree or disagree with whoever in this public arena? Why did I disagree, or why did I agree? Is there anything different that I can draw upon based on what was being shared?
I feel we get involved, and we're supposed to get involved in our students' lives. But sometimes you've got to pull back and say, okay, well, I'm going to be neutral. We're going to learn these skills, and we're going to discuss these topics. But my views on something, I'm not going to push onto you. You know, whether it's religion, all these taboo topics, sex and politics, and that's where the news comes in. But I think a big problem, not just with us as teachers, because we've got access to the it sounds so bad, we've got access to the students. No, we've got this platform where the students see us, and it's our responsibility not to just share the ideas we have in this echo chamber, because the problem with social media is that the things that we see, it's only reflected back to us. So we think everybody should have this viewpoint. And then we get to the classroom and we're so confident that our students should also have the same viewpoint. And that's why it's so important to remain neutral as a teacher.
I think so. It goes back to, if students want to voice their opinion, I step back and I allow them that space. And it's important to have that neutrality when it comes down to students wanting to share their opinion. And if they say, what do you think, teacher, or what do you think? And I go, well, some interesting points that you've highlighted on, and then I redirect it and I say, does anyone agree or disagree? And it's like, I'm not really going to share.
The funny thing is, I've heard this before, and so this is a very soft skill, is how we interact with students when it comes to these sensitive topics, is that the students know where you stand, but you're not going to be the one to tell them. So, the way that you're going to speak to them and interact with them, you're going to remain neutral. You're going to open them up to be able to practice the skills and critical thinking. But you're not going to push your values and your ideas onto the students. And I think that's a problem that teachers shouldn't be doing.
I think last week, the week that's just gone, I was sharing with students their own writing, in-class writing, and I've gone back to paper and pen. Unfortunately, with this era of AI and ChatGPT, where I can't rely upon anything that's done outside of class, I have to do it pen and paper. And I got students to submit their handwritten writing, 20 minutes of writing, take a photo of it, upload it to the LMS, and then I've kind of took samples out of their writing and then put it back on for them to review, anonymous, so they don't know whose is whose. And it develops that critical thinking skill. So, I pulled out the paragraph on introductions, and it's like, how is this introduction? Does it guide the reader into the rest of the paragraph? What's good about it? What could be improved? And it's just constantly developing those critical thinking skills. And then there was one student who obviously had his sample anonymous again up on the screen, and then he immediately got completely he was starting to question, I did this, why is that not? And I said, well, we're just reviewing. And at the back of my mind, he's already confirmed that that's his piece of writing to the rest of the class. It's like, you could keep it discreet, you didn't have to. But then he's starting to criticize me, but then I kind of left it. I didn't react. Again, that sort of criticism. you don't get emotional, you just deal with it. And then at the end of the class, he came over to me because he had that element of time to reflect on what he was saying and what he was doing. Again, very good student, very communicative, spent some time in Canada, Korean student. And then he came over and he said, I'm very sorry for my words to you. I think it might have been a bit too direct. And I said, that's fine. I appreciate it. Thanks for your apology. It's okay. Don't worry about it. And it's like you're constantly trying to develop that sort of reflective skill, so students can be aware of, well, did I say something which might have been received differently, or did it not hit the mark, so to say?
I think it's important that you didn't react to it personally. You know, I think that's a big thing in teaching, is that it's a very personal thing. You're putting yourself out there, you're standing in front of these students, these individuals with their own minds and opinions, and you're trying your best to guide them, or to knowledge, or also, to help them grow as people. But I think a lot of teachers, and it can happen not just to teachers, but we get invested in our own opinions and who we are, and that ego. Once that ego gets hurt, you react, and it can often be badly. So we've got to be proud of who we are, what we've done, and being individuals. But we shouldn't make that the basis of how we interact with our students.
No, and then you practice what you preach. You say, okay, to the students, you need to not get too emotional, not get too defensive, but just negotiate and develop that. And if you can emulate that to the students, they'll start to learn and recognize, this is how it works.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I'm happy, if you're lucky enough to have experience. We've been taught this about Taboo's topics for a long time, so we know this. But it kind of sneaks up on you. I remember many years ago, I was watching the news and something big happened, and I was so sure of that truth, my truth. And I was having a conversation with the students where I was talking about this, because we were talking about world events.
Yes.
And I brought out this event, and I'm like, how can you imagine this is happening, that everything else is trivial compared to this?
Sure.
And now many years later, I reflect on that, and I think this one thing, how it could be seen a different way, and the effects that had, I had no idea. We're very small as people.
We are.
And sometimes we think that I'm the master of the universe. I'm supposed to know everything, and everyone should agree with me.
I think for me, the biggest one was COVID. Everybody had an opinion about COVID. Do you get vaccinated? Do you not get vaccinated? If you get, and it's like, again, it was a slippery slope. People are saying, you don't know what's in the vaccine, and and I'm thinking, well, at the back of my mind, I was thinking, okay, do you know more than what these doctors and medical practitioners know when it comes down to the treatment of COVID? And there was an individual that was heavy anti-COVID vaccine and that sort of thing, anti-vax, I think we called it in the UK. And he was having it going, saying, he said, "Oh, did you get vaccinated?" And I was, yeah, I'm on my second or third course of vaccinations. And he was like, "Why did you do that?" And then at the side of me, there was another guy who actually got admitted into hospital and had a heart attack based on his COVID. And I'm thinking, can't you read the room? There's certain people that have been affected by this, and there's different views and opinions, but you've got to be respectful. And
well, this is where I was exactly the same. I actually made a video about. So when it came out, the news came out, I thought, okay, of course everybody should get the vaccine. I remember I did this I did this lesson a long time ago about the word taboo and how it came about. There was this physician that what was it about? Yeah, this physician that went to work at a hospital, and at the hospital he noticed that if doctors didn't wash their hands, and then in some places where it was cleaner, that the people survived. And so he said that doctors should wash their hands. And at the time they said, what are you saying? You're saying I've got dirty hands? And they fired him, and he, you know, basically his whole life was destroyed because he had this idea that cleanliness, you know, bacteria, or there was something. And now today we know that he was right. I don't remember what the story is, or the name is important. But when it comes to COVID, it's the same thing where you said, you know, you were like really into it. Initially, this is exactly what I'm talking about. I thought, okay, we have to get vaccinated. It's the logical thing to do. The doctors all say it. But then a lot of people in the comments said, we can see he's trying his best, but he doesn't understand where we're coming from. And it really, I was like, okay, well, let's look at this. And then I started looking at the reasons why people were against it and why they didn't want to inject themselves with something that has just been made and that might actually be worse for them. And I was like, initially I was this way, and just because I was arrogant and because of my ego, I felt this way, I could have been completely wrong.
Yes.
And even though I knew as a teacher I would never do this with my students, sometimes it creeps up on you and you can make that mistake. But then you have to go back and say, listen, I'll be better next time. I don't want to push my students.
Sure.
And you know, students can see that too.
Yeah.
You know, students are so honest where they can see a teacher. We get this glassy gaze. We were like, we believe this one thing, you've got to believe it too. And students can pick up on it.
Yeah.
Most of them can see, oh, this teacher's a little bit too invested in this opinion.
Yes.
But then what about the 20% that believe the teacher and they start following their guidance, even though the teacher might be wrong?
Yes.
And that's the dangers of teaching and bringing politics into it.
Yeah, exactly. Politics, sex, drugs, religion.
But I'm very happy we had this conversation about it, you know, because we don't get people. That's the other thing is, as teachers, you know, maybe we've got these opinions, we can't always talk about it. So it's nice to have colleagues. But teaching at university now, I feel very isolated. Don't always get this opportunity to chat.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And, thank you ever so much for coming over and having the time. It was great.
I think to finish, what are your plans for the foreseeable future, the next 5 to 10 years?
Okay, well, my plan is I'm not really going anywhere. I'm probably going to be here in Dejan for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years or so. My life and family are here, and I've just got to put my head down at the moment whilst my son goes through university and you know, graduates, and he goes on his lifelong journey. And we'll have to see, but I'm here, I guess.
What about YouTube? What type of content will you work towards making?
At the moment, I'm working towards online teaching and real online lessons and sharing how things actually go, because it's very difficult to share real online lessons, and sometimes it can be a bit artificial if you try and organize it. So at the moment, I've got a few online lessons which I'm going to be sharing in the near future. One is about teaching advanced students with no material. The other is a trial lesson, and then the next lesson after the trial lesson, which some commenters have been asking for. So that's in the pipeline. Video-wise, I'd like to try and get into more this sort of style of content creation. It's been great, and getting out and about and just recording things that have been happening with me, and we'll see what happens. What about you?
Well, very exciting. Getting married 2 weeks, and then with my wife, just want to spend time with her. Just get settled. Start a home, make a home, start a family. Start a home, make a family. So I'd like to do that, and I'll stay here in Korea for now. See how things go. With YouTube, I'm very excited. I think next year, once I move into a new place, I'll go back to, I really want to make videos based on grammar topics.
Oh, yes.
How I would teach specific lessons, because I feel those are quite valuable, because I'm going to be sharing activities and resources.
That's great.
How I would go about teaching things. I'm very
Yeah.
excited about that. And then, I think how YouTube is going, a lot more commentary videos, because it's easier to make the content, and
Yeah.
people are very interested in perhaps not just your opinion, but gathering the information for them to watch in a simple way. So I
good.
think I'll do those too. I'll make commentary videos once I get into a new spot, and a bit more how to teach certain grammar topics.
Yeah, some things that I've been developing, and huge thanks to my channel members, because that's started to take over a little bit. I've started creating lessons for my channel members, and how to teach like the present perfect or that sort of thing, and this seems to have gained some traction, so that's definitely one thing that I'm working on.
Very
as
important.
well.
Yeah, no, I'm doing the same. Yeah, remember, check out the channel membership.
Yep. Both our channel memberships.
Because, it helps so much.
It does.
It's for us to have taken this journey for the past how many years, to have people out there, kind teachers out there supporting us really helps.
It's really good, and the fact that I've had so much support from the community, and to have been able to connect with individuals who I wouldn't necessarily connect with, it's been great. And I'm only a small channel compared to you, whereas I've only got 20-odd thousand subscribers, but it's great to have that small community.
Listen, the thing is, so I'm very grateful to anyone who's pressed that subscribe button. But the truth is, I think a lot of people join they find a video they might find interesting and helpful, hopefully, and then they subscribe, but then they might not watch many videos after that. Whereas if you build a community, I love having a core of people. When I used to live stream, but I would see them, and I'd be so excited to see them.
I was one of them.
Important.
I was watching you.
Loved it, man. It's so nice, that interaction. So I do miss that, but it was a bit exhausting.
Yes.
Maybe easier now. Maybe in the future I'll live stream a little bit more. But it's so nice to have a community of teachers.
That's great. Yeah. Well, all the best with your wedding, and congratulations. And you must be looking forward to that.
Yeah, but we'll do this again. Welcome to come to mine, or we'll see how it goes. But Martin, it's been a pleasure. Considering you as a friend on YouTube for many years now, and to finally meet.
I know. Thank you.